Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about why you can't save anyone. Alright, so this video is specifically about people that's going through a spiritual awakening and they can't shake the urge of wanting to help everybody around them. So the closest people around you, you want to, like, in a sense, put them onto this information. I'm gonna give you some examples as to why you don't want to put this burden on yourself. Alright, so before we get started, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. First goal is to get to 100 subscribers. We're new here, but we're growing, alright? So shout out to everybody that's locked in. Let's get into the video. Alright, so what I'm going to do to explain this is I'm going to use a lot of analogies, and I'm also going to do some references to movies to help you have an idea about this better. If you could, like, relate it to something that you already know, it'd be easier for you to learn. Alright, so the first example I'm gonna use is the movie The Matrix. Alright, so if you remember in The Matrix, Neo was the one that was searching for Morpheus, meaning he had this urge, he knew something was off, and he was trying to figure out there's something not right about this world, or the world in the movie, in a sense. You could relate it to this world as well, but we're not even going to get into that. But Neo was seeking out Morpheus, all right? And this is the same thing in regards to you. Anybody that's going through a spiritual awakening or got to this point, for the most part, you had an urge to expand your consciousness in some type of way. Just maybe something happened. It could have been a traumatic event. Just something happened that led you to look deeper into what's going on. So as you remember in the movie The Matrix, when Morpheus finally met up with Neo, Morpheus offered Neo a choice. Alright, and this is where you get the whole, it's like a big pop culture reference now with the whole red pill, blue pill reference. But Morpheus offered Neo the choice. It was his choice. It was like the blue pill. If you want to stay ignorant and not understand the truth behind your reality, or you could choose a red pill and we'll show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Alright? So, and trust me, since we're the people over here that's exploring the rabbit hole has no end. Alright? But yeah, that's what it comes down to. So in regards to the people that you love, like the people that's closest to you, I mean, it has to be their choice. You can't force this onto anybody. And even if you do, even if you read a book that was life-changing to you, and you give it to somebody that you care about, you love, and you keep telling them to read the book, sometimes they'll read the book and they might not have the same the book might not have the same effects on them as it did for you. It has to be their choice, and not even just for choice. So I use The Matrix as one. All right, so notice the theme here: choice. Also, you got to remember that when you come into this spirituality, always think of who you were before this. You got to remember that there was a time where you never knew this information. There was a time where you might not have been interested in this kind of information, and now you are. So you have to give them the same patience that you would give to your old self. Yeah, you gotta give them that patience, because there was a time where you didn't know. I mean, a lot of the stuff I know now, I didn't just notice all along. It's like it's from accumulation of years and years of, like, study. And there's different means of which I get my information as well. There's all downloads, but we could get into this in a whole different topic. All right, so in a whole different video. So the first thing I said was just remember The Matrix. It has to be their choice, and also you're now operating in a different frequency. And you want to realize that, I mean, it's just like a radio. There's another analogy. Once you're on a certain frequency on the radio, you're not going to really hear once you're tapped into a certain frequency, you're tapped into that frequency. All right, so you're just on a whole different frequency. And what I find with a lot of people that's like awakening is they get into this, there's a thing they call like the spiritual ego, meaning like you feel as if like you're above anybody or you're better than them because you know what you know and they don't know what they know. Just don't fall into that trap, all right? Because I'm going to explain it to you. The deeper you get into this, you realize that nobody's ahead of anybody. Like, see, it's kind of hard to explain this because like in our human form or our perception of time has been like engineered to the point where we believe that time is like linear, but beyond this space, beyond this realm, time is just a construct of what we agree upon. All right, so just remember the frequency. So make sure I don't get too much off topic. Duality as well too. All right, so the next thing is like duality. So what duality is, it's just, in short, this is like good and evil. The sun is not out all day. The moon comes up. There has to be some type of duality. And that duality is like they're living in the space of that duality. All right. So, as I said, the number one thing though is choice. It's choice. You didn't use yourself as an example. You didn't get here by accident. If you're watching this video right now, maybe YouTube recommended it to you, and just based off how the algorithm is nowadays, probably this type of information aligns with information that you've previously been looking at, and also want to use myself as an example. Like I'm not here by accident. I didn't just like wake up one day and know all the stuff that I know now. It took time, but one thing that's for certain is I made the choice to look beyond the distractions of this world. I made the choice to look beyond, to expand my perception and my consciousness about what's going on. All right, so don't get discouraged. When I say you can't save anyone, you could give them the information, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But in terms of like trying to force it onto them, it's not gonna work. I'm telling you, it's not gonna work. They have to reach their point. And on a more deeper scale as well, is everybody is exactly where they need to be. So this is why I said before that nobody's ahead of anybody. Everybody's exactly where they need to be. Maybe they're not supposed to wake up in this life. All right. Hopefully that gives you some type of comfort. Maybe they need to live a few more lives. Maybe they need to come back here a few more times to understand or grasp what's going on. All right. In my family, there's probably only one other person, to be honest, that is really deep into the spirituality like I am, and it's my cousin. He helped me out in the beginning stages when I first started experiencing synchronicities, and he relayed to me that he also sees the synchronicities, and just by him saying that, it helped me to say, okay, all right, I'm not going crazy. I know a lot of y'all can relate, but synchronicities, that's a whole different video, all right? But this video, I just wanted to come here and just talk to y'all, just like this, nothing too fancy, and just let you know that, I understand that you want to save the people around you. You want to you desperately want them to be walking this road of spirituality, but if they're not ready, or if it's not their time, or if they haven't made a choice, and I don't want to be so definitive and say yo, it's not gonna happen. But what I really want to relay is just by saying that you can't force it on them. All right, and just don't be discouraged by it as well. So, I wrote some things down to make sure that I stay on track. But one thing I didn't talk about is like, all right, so life. This is what you realize too with the spiritual awakening. Is like you realize that life is the ultimate test. Meaning, like, it's the type of test where you don't even know that you're being tested, and you only realize that it's been a test when you actually get to a certain level. All right, so another analogy coming for you, right? So this test of life is, if you remember back in school where the teacher would give you a test, right? You had some people that would cheat on the test, right? But the thing is, with this test called life, the teacher actually could see through your eyes, so you can't manipulate it. You know, it's like if you got to this point, it's because like you would genuinely, and this is where they get into the whole, all right, you're chosen. You know, because like you don't just get into this type of information unless like you really, it's not your unless it's really your time, you know. So you were meant to awaken. So yeah, that's one thing. Yeah, but yeah, I'm not gonna ramble on too much more. So I use the analogy of the Matrix, which is choice. Life is a test, so it just means that whoever you want to awaken, loved one, spouse, whatever, they have to choose the path. You know, you can't force the path on them. You know, so just focus on you, focus on trying to elevate. I'm not here saying to be selfish and not help anybody. Definitely not that. You know, we don't need more selfishness in the world, but you want to give people a chance to grow. You know, you want to give people that patience that you had for yourself. You know, so that's it. Hopefully this video helped to shed some, you know, some insight on why you can't save anyone, you know, in terms of like the spiritual journey. You can't force it onto anybody. So before I ramble on, I'm gonna sign off here. If you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. Just leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I got more videos coming. All right, today I'm on the trail, I'm outside enjoying nature as usual. So see y'all in the next video. All right, Immortal Soul signing out.